Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary podcast.
Remember, all who wander in the desert are not lost.
We believe all of our stories are sacred.
We are always here if you need someone to hear your story.
Check out our blog on Pathos and also our YouTube channel.
And stay tuned for our Leaning Forward conference.
Remember, we love you.
And be at peace.
Hi, welcome to the Desert Sanctuary podcast. I'm Laura Forehand. I am here with Carl Forehand, and we are back with another guest. And so I'm really excited about speaking with our guest tonight, hearing her story. And before we do that, though, I'm going to kick it to you. See if you have anything you want to share.
Yeah, the new book is called Campfires in the Desert. This sounds weird, but I'm not really interested in selling those books. I'm interested in people reading those books, and especially to put evaluations out there. Mm-hmm. So if you're one of those people, then, and if you can't afford a book, let us know. We might find a way to get it to you anyhow. So hopefully we get some interaction on the books, but I guess it'll happen when it happens, right?
Yeah.
We have a few more of these types of episodes. A couple of people I'm really excited about interviewing, and just like the person that's here tonight. 2 years ago, people told me, Leona, that they said you need to read survivor stories. They specifically said you need to listen to survivor stories.
You need to listen to women's
survivor stories. So we had some people on our podcast off and on, and we did a conference. That was when we did a conference with only women speaking. And I largely passed that advice along and didn't dive into a book till I read one or two, and then I read yours and Tia Leving's book back to back, and I was curled up in a fetal position at one point. They were really intense, really beneficial, and so we're glad that you're here today, Leona.
Yeah.
And Laura's going to introduce
you. Should do the introduction, because I always think it's
Thank you.
For people to know the experience, not only personally, but also professionally, of the people that we have on our podcast. So Dr. Leona Stucky first received a degree in psychology and philosophy from Boston College, graduating summa cum laude before pursuing seminary studies at Andover Newton Theological School and later at Eden Theological Seminary. She earned a doctorate from Southern Methodist University with honors and a diploma certificate from the American Association of Pastoral Counselors, their highest credential. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I couldn't hardly read that word.
Third grade teacher.
Yeah, for her teaching, supervising, and therapeutic services. These professional explorations might have quieted her mind, but the areas where integration seemed impossible became sand kernels, disrupting many intellectual resting places. Being fiercely honest in confronting contradictions, she refined her wisdom, gained unusual insights, and embarked on a professional and personal journey that could only be shared by telling the whole story. After numerous attempts and 12 years of writing, Dr. Stucky completed The Fog of Faith, Surviving My Impotent God. What a great title to a book. I am so intrigued right now. Welcome so much to the podcast, Leona. We are very glad that you are here.
Thank you so much, Laura and Carl. It was great to be invited, and I just really appreciate this opportunity. And I've had the pleasure of reading some of your books. Most recently, I thought I had it right here with me, but the one that the two of you wrote together, tell me the title of it
Which
again.
ones did we read together?
Out into the Desert.
Out into the desert. That's the one I was just reading and have just found it so fabulous. I have been both a pastor and a pastor's wife. And so as I read each of your parts, I
Hmm.
was totally identifying with each of you. It was fabulous, just fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
And I have to say that I don't very often get to hear what it's like, from other people to have been a pastor's wife and
Hmm.
and be a woman in the church.
Hmm.
And I found that fascinating to really appreciate the struggle
Mm.
and the blessing and the curses of
Yeah,
that position.
exactly. Right.
And
And
it's
now,
both.
and
Yes.
now
It's
on
both.
the other podcast, the Unlearning Curve, my son JD is on that podcast, and so he's
Mm,
speaking from a former pastor's kid,
Hmm.
and
wow.
we're allowing each other to cuss if we want to and things like that, and so it's real raw and honest and good. It gets
Yeah.
down to the
Oh,
meat
I
of stuff
love it.
pretty fast. So um, we
That's
think,
great.
Yeah.
That's great. I have to say, I am somebody who appreciates cussing. I've appreciated it since I was a teenager, and I've never let it go.
yeah.
So,
So
um,
we at the Desert Sanctuary, we think stories are sacred. So we treat them with respect, and we believe survivors when they tell us their stories. But we also try to be careful with them and only do with them what you want us to do, and you never try to force you to say something you don't want to say or anything like that. But it's important for us to hear that story. And I've been fortunate to read the book all the way through, so I know sort of what's coming. But can you share with us your story?
I will try. It's
Okay.
so hard to compress it into a simple tale, but I'll try to jump through the highlights at least
Okay.
and let people get a feel
Hmm.
Sure.
for that story.
And then they can read the book.
Um, it took me 12 years to write this book, and actually, it took an entire lifetime because I've tried so many times through the years to figure out a way to talk about this, but I couldn't. And I had it on my bucket list that I have to do this. And I kept trying to move it down the list so I could do other things first, and I wouldn't let myself. So that was the only way I could push myself into writing this for 12 years.
Yeah.
So I'll just start with that because it's one heck of a story to tell. And and it was hard to tell it. I think after having put it in writing, I have a little bit easier time getting through it. So
Hmm.
I hope I can get through this
Hmm.
without any trouble.
Yep.
Um, but if I have trouble, you'll know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
we got your back.
Yeah.
so
You're okay.
okay, thank you. Um, I think the most important thing for me to start out with is that I have 500 years of Mennonite coursing through my veins.
Hmm.
And that was the key thing in my childhood. Everything that I thought or felt or did was somehow filtered through the lens that I had through which I could perceive the world around me and perceive myself. And it was only through that lens that I had any idea about anything. Mom and dad and all of my relatives were Mennonite and had been Mennonite, and and we had great pride, I guess you could
Mhm.
say, in that being our faith journey. So as a kid, the thing that was most important to me was to be a good girl.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And of course, that meant in my world being a nice girl.
Mhm.
And it also meant because I was the second child, the first one being also a girl, and then I came along, and then another two girls came along before the boy came along, and then two more girls after that. So we had a big family,
Hmm.
farm family. Grew up on a farm, and it was one of the few farms in the area where our entire living was made from the farm.
Mhm.
Now,
Hmm.
I should say we were not Amish and we were not really quote unquote conservative Mennonites, although we were very conservative.
Hmm.
But we were not the most conservative you could
Right.
be as a Mennonite, which means that we had electricity, we had a car, we had tractors that ran on gas or propane, and you know, implements. We had the simple things that you have to construct a viable farm. Um, and we believed tremendously in simplicity, that simplicity was really what God wanted from us because in our simple ways we didn't get caught up by the world and caught up with all the things you need to keep up with the Joneses and to think about all those other things that aren't about being a good Christian.
Mm.
So simplicity was really important. And the the other thing that was really defining for myself and for my family and for the Mennonite community is we have a strong belief in turning the other cheek,
Mhm.
meaning do
Hmm.
not do evil unto others, do not return evil for evil, but practice goodness no matter what.
Hmm.
And that practice um, became a defining characteristic of my entire family.
Hmm.
Um, So those were a couple of the fundamental tenets that I grew up with: kindness, simplicity, um, no aggression, no cruelty.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say we were always kind to our farm animals. In
Mhm.
fact, I have some guilt about the way that we did some of those things.
Yeah.
Right.
But for the most part, we practiced kindness and it meant a lot to to believe, to know that we were doing the things that we professed, and it was by doing that our witness would be known. We didn't really evangelize per se, but we believed that by being the kind of Christian that we were supposed to be, that others could
Mhm.
see that and would be that would be a witness to the love of Christ.
So
So,
strongly that your dad went to jail, right?
yes,
For
yes,
for not serve in the wars, not kill other people.
yeah.
And
And that,
you own guns, but those are never used to threaten, except for one time, right? Anyway, I don't want to tell your story. Go
they
ahead.
are they are never used to threaten, and they might kill coyotes if they tear apart our lambs or, deal with wildlife, but not people ever, and never used to threaten. And in fact, one of the crucial moments of my childhood was finding out that my dad had been in prison. And my dad never talked about it. He, when we were in grade school, one day we went to school on the school bus and we entered the school bus and the kids started chanting, "Your daddy's an ex-con, your daddy's an ex-con." I had no idea what ex-con meant.
Mhm.
None of us really knew. We
Mhm.
just knew it was something that was bad, and we thought it might have to do with being in jail.
Mhm.
And that was as far as we could go. And I spent that entire day like in shock and monitoring myself because that I had never heard that before, anything like that from the kids,
Hmm.
anything like that anywhere. And so I kept thinking it has to be a lie, but I'd never known those kids. You know, these are Mennonite kids. They don't come on the bus and lie and tease us that way. And
Mm.
so I couldn't quite believe that it was a lie. But I also knew that my dad was, in my estimation, the best person alive.
Right.
Hmm.
And I could not believe that there was something bad in his history.
Mm.
Hmm.
So all through the day in school, I was like, did he not, did he not, and if I thought, if that thought came through that he might have been in prison, I thought, I can't, how dare I think that? And I
Hmm.
started to feel ashamed of myself for doubting my dad.
Hmm.
So it was a big deal. And when we got home, of course, we asked Dad, and you could see the hurt
Hmm.
written all over his face
Hmm.
that anybody had brought up that subject
Yeah.
and had brought it up that way to
Hmm.
Hmm.
his own children.
Right.
Hmm.
And then he told us that he had chosen not to do what many Mennonites did in World War II, which was to do selective service or be a conscientious objector. He felt that there were these young boys, young men going off to war, and they were risking their lives, and they were, coming back hurt.
Hmm.
And he didn't feel like you could be a witness and do something less than what these boys were doing that went off to war.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so he chose to take a stand that Tolstoy had talked about and prescribed, which is to say that the government has no right to make anyone kill anyone.
Mm.
Hmm.
And so he refused to register for the war.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And they, of course, then caught
Hmm.
him. Now, he could have easily gone for F, because when he was 17, he was involved in a tractor explosion
Mm.
where somebody was putting gas into the tractor and it exploded while he was on it.
Wow.
And he was very severely burned.
Hmm.
He spent 200 days in the hospital
Wow.
after that, and he almost didn't live. And after he even came home from the hospital, he had severe burns on his legs, especially, that were open sores for the rest of his entire life.
Wow.
And so every other evening he would unwrap and then put the salve on those open
Mm.
sores that would ooze out, and then it would stink, and we would watch him do that, and we knew, but he just went on and did everything that he could do. I mean, it didn't, those swords did not stop him from walking and doing what he could do.
Mhm.
So he did all the farming and everything, even though he had that pain.
Mhm.
Um, so I say that now because he was so badly burned that if he had claimed for F, he could have gotten out of everything.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But he chose not to because he felt that if you're taking a quote unquote moral stand, it needs to be done in a way that, you know, that you suffer for it in essence.
Hmm.
And you pick up your cross and you walk with it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And that was his intent.
Mhm.
So that's what he did. A lot of the Mennonites in our community were not happy with that because they had worked really hard with the government to get this option to be conscientious objectors. I'm not going to go into that too much because I think that is a sideline to the
Yeah.
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
But they had their reasons for being unhappy with what my dad did. I just want to say that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so, so being a quote unquote pacifist or not doing evil to others was crucially important. And when I was a teenager, I started dating this young man who was just as shy as I was. I was horrifically shy, didn't know how to talk, had no idea even really how to put on any airs. I had been dad's helper. And so I was like the quote unquote tomboy, and I worked morning, noon, and night on the farm. Had little time for anything else, and
Mhm.
and then as a teenager, I started dating and wound up with this young man that seemed extremely nice. He didn't smoke, he didn't swear. Even I swore, but he didn't. And and you know, was friendly, so on and so forth, and on the football team, and I thought that was very cool.
Hmm.
And so and was from a different a neighboring town,
Mhm.
and um, so we dated for a while, and he kept wanting it to get more and more serious. And I felt resistive every step of the way. I mean, at first I thought, oh, this is great. And then I thought, no, this is too serious, too fast. I don't like this. But he was so insistent. And finally I thought, I can't go forward with this. I need to find a way to end this relationship. But I had this horrible foreboding sense
Mhm.
because I had wanted on numerous occasions to say, that's it, we're done. And I just couldn't quite get there. I could tell he was resisting that with his whole being.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I told Dad, I said, I've got to talk to a counselor. There's
Mhm.
something very wrong. Well, of course, my dad was, why don't you just talk to me? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was a big ordeal to get me to a counselor. I had one session and it didn't really help,
Mhm.
even though the counselor was wonderful. But you can't tell somebody what to do
Right.
as a
Hmm.
therapist, and I needed to be told what to do. I wanted an answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Should I say I am done? And how do I say that? And what do I do next? And is something terrible going to happen? Because I feel like it will.
Mhm.
Mm.
And of course, I no answer came, and that was my only session. It was horrific for Dad to even have to take me there. And this is a part of the story I haven't said yet. My mom had MS,
Okay.
and it was a long, long time of getting worse and worse and worse. And at this point, she couldn't even walk anymore. And so there was nobody to take care of the younger kids at home. If Dad wasn't there, it was dangerous, you know. Anyway, it made it very difficult for Dad to take anybody anywhere. So I knew I was only going to have one session.
Mhm. I
I mean, I have to get a drink. My mouth keeps getting dry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Fine.
So I I get with I'm going to call him Ron. That's not the real name, but I get with Ron, and he takes my purse and he's looking through my purse, and I'm not sure why he's looking through my purse, but he pulls out this pink slip,
Mhm.
and it's a pink slip from school. I had to get a pink slip to have an excused absence to go to the counselor.
Mhm.
And he goes, "What's this?" And so I tell him I had gone to a counselor. Well, that just inflamed him. And we get into his car and he starts yelling at me and then he starts beating on me. And I'm putting up my arms and trying to stop him and trying to figure out what to do. And he's, you know, slams it in gear and drives out of the driveway as fast as he can, slipping, sliding, and tearing off along the highway. And starts telling me that he's going to slice off my breasts. He's going to stick the knife in my vagina, and I've never heard anything like this. I've never known anybody who was violent.
My God.
I've never, this is like, and I'm thinking in my mind, is he some kind of a pervert? And I can't believe, I don't even know what a pervert is, but the
Mhm.
word comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying desperately to think of how can I get away from him. He's going to kill me, and I know he is. And the beating made me know he was
Mm-hmm.
capable of it. And now he has this hunting knife that he's wielding around while he's driving, 80, 90 miles an hour. And I'm
Wow.
thinking, should I jump out? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
to make a long story short, um, he rapes me, and I try to calm him, and I know that the only way to survive is to calm him, and I get him to agree rather than kill me immediately to have a last supper.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes me to this restaurant, and I finally get up the courage to say, I'm sitting there and acting like everything's fine. And we put in our order, and it's a truck stop type thing. And I tell him that I have to go to the bathroom, and he's like, "Don't you dare!" And I just say, "Look," I say, "there's no point in us making a scene here. So just let me go. You can see the bathroom door. I'll come in and I'll come out. It's no problem." And so I go to the bathroom and I try to find a window, but the window doesn't open. There is one there. I bang on the window. I get somebody's attention. A woman's walking by. I tell her to call the police. And then I hide in the bathroom and try to find the best way to hide myself in case he comes storming in. And I'm waiting, 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 and it's like it's taking forever, and I'm terrified. And finally, I see these blue pants. I'm in the stall. I see the blue pants and some black shoes, and I realize it's not Ron. So I open the door, the stall door, and it's a policeman, and I tell the policeman exactly what happened. And there's another policeman there who is, getting Ron, and the policeman puts me in the back seat of the car, and then he puts Ron in the back seat of the car right with me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I could be dead in a second. He could twist my neck. He could do anything. I don't even know that he doesn't have his knife still.
Mm-hmm.
And the policeman takes us to Ron's house and they talked with Ron's dad. And Ron's mom wanted me to come in and talk to her. So I did, and I told her what happened. I didn't even know how to lie, and I just told her the truth, and she didn't believe me. And I was flabbergasted that somebody wouldn't believe me, and
Mhm.
especially about something that I was telling the truth about right after it
Mhm.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
But she
Yeah.
didn't believe me. And so then the police had told Ron's dad to take me home because I'm out, lived out in the country, and he agreed to do that. And of course, he let Ron sit in the back seat with me. So on the way home, Ron whispered in my ear, "Leona, you cannot ever leave me. Never, ever
Mhm.
try to to leave. I need you to be with me." And you have to do that. And if you ever try to leave me, I would kill you and your family, every member of your family. I could do it. I know how to do it.
Oh my gosh.
And
Mm,
I wouldn't want to, but I know I would.
mm,
And I had to believe him
mm.
because after the night I had, I believed he could.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so,
Can I just ask you
sure.
something? Like, I'm just trying to, I don't understand why the police didn't take you home. That is absolutely ridiculous. That knowing what, you know, I mean, did the police hear you tell Ron's mom what happened?
The police weren't in there when I told Ron's
Okay.
mom, but I had told the police, when they went,
Mm,
when the policeman came into the bathroom, that was my chance to say that Ron had been trying to kill me and that I was terrified and that he had a hunting knife and he had beaten me up and all of that. So they knew.
They knew. They knew he
They
sexually
did
assaulted
nothing.
you, and
They
they
did
still
nothing.
asked the dad to take you home. That
Yes,
is unfathomable to
yes,
me.
those were the
yes.
times when,
Those were, but that was normal for those times. They didn't
Really? Okay.
they
I
didn't
mean,
listen to women. They didn't
uh,
if they believed women, it was like, well, she's dating him. She deserves it. She
yeah,
knows what kind of person he is.
a,
Whatever they
a
believed, but
husband
they
can't
never,
rape his wife. Yeah.
well, they weren't married. They
they
weren't
I
even
just
know, I
married.
know,
let
Okay.
it go.
but it's that culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't excuse, like, I'm still like still flabbergasted by that. I mean, we
Mhm.
can say all day that those were the times, but
Yeah.
still doesn't
No.
make that in any part of that right. Anyway,
No.
I didn't mean to interrupt your
No.
story, but like I'm
Yeah.
just still trying to wrap my head around that
Mhm.
Oh,
craziness. So,
absolutely. And I certainly don't want it to sound like all of that has changed.
mm,
Some has,
mm-hmm,
but many times
mm-hmm,
women who are beaten
mm-hmm,
are arrested rather than the guy. And I can go into that later, but
mm.
it happens all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of prejudice that happens against women
Mm-hmm,
and the pain that women have.
mm-hmm,
Mhm. Yeah.
So
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
I don't want to pretend that it's all different, but they do tend to, I think, not so much anymore. Just put you both in the same car back seat and do whatever and dump you. But that happened to me more than once. So
Yeah.
um,
So what
yeah,
happened next?
I believed Ron, and there wasn't, I told my parents what happened. I don't know how much they really could take in
mm.
or how much they really understood. Um, I was so shook up and beyond consoling, and I finally just, went to bed and um, was immobile for a couple of days. I couldn't function at all.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but as time went on, I realized, Ron was going to call, Ron was going to come back, and, I would either, if I didn't go with him, he would do something.
Mm.
And the something was way too scary. So I went with him
Mm.
and continued to quote unquote date him as if nothing had happened.
Mm.
But I knew from then on that my survival depended on me knowing how to calm him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I became very practiced at doing what Ron wanted me to do.
Mhm.
And all this time, I was so grateful for my faith, even though when Ron was raping me, I had been praying that entire time.
Mhm.
And in the back of my mind, I kept wondering why. Why? I'm asking God to help me. I'm asking God to stop this. I'm asking God, you know, please, please, begging,
You're
pleading.
pleading with
Begging, yeah.
God. Yeah.
And yet something in me knew that God was not going to stop it.
Hmm.
Something in me knew. And I knew that the only way I was not going to get killed was if I found a way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And I just was so desperate to find a way out.
Hmm.
And afterwards, I kept wondering, why did I know that God was not going to stop this?
Mm.
I
Hmm.
always had believed that God was a just God. God was going to help you if you really needed it.
Hmm.
You could pray to God when in times of great stress and
Yep.
trouble and, so on and so forth. But I knew, and I thought, isn't that strange for a person of faith
Mm.
Hmm.
to know when I'm praying desperately that that's not going to happen?
Mm.
Hmm.
So after that instance, there's something that happens when you truly think you're going to die.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It really changes something inside.
100%. That
Yeah.
trauma
Hmm.
is real. That trauma is real. Can I ask
It's
you a question
incredible.
about so so the Mennonite belief is, how did you describe, I mean, nonviolence, right?
Pacifist.
Pacifists, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Do you, does your did your faith, or does your faith believe that God is the same way, that God is a gentle, nonviolent God? I'm just curious, because I don't think
I
that every
think,
religion believes that. I think there's a,
right,
what we're seeing
right.
now as
Yeah,
far as, Christian nationalism, God is,
right.
you know, he's a hate monger basically.
Hmm.
So I'm just curious. So man, that had to create some real cognitive dissonance. Like, you
Yes,
know what I mean? Like this violence was being perpetrated on
right.
you, and you're crying out, begging God. And if God is a person that dislikes violence, why isn't this God helping me in this violent situation? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was also going to say, I get the impression from your book that your dad was a very, very good man.
He was
Mm-hmm.
But,
a very good man.
and I know your sister that tells stories also
Yes.
that speaks that way. Yet, the belief system, the understanding he had of God and how he wanted him to act in this situation handcuffed him, where a good family
Mhm.
and a good religion, uh, and if you tell more of your story, more of that comes out, right? That it handcuffs them, and then you're led to assume that God is handcuffed somehow. He
Mm-hmm.
can't intervene. Even though
Mhm.
what I write about more than anything is about comparing myself as a father to God, right?
Mhm.
Saying if
Right.
you know if I as a father would step in, but
Mhm.
in this case, this specific case, your your dad felt like because of his assumptions, because of his beliefs, couldn't step in, and that's heartbreaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I know it was to you
Now,
as well. Oh,
Mm.
I think it was probably partly that I couldn't ask him to step in.
Mm.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
Is there a
I
reason for
couldn't.
that? Can I? Can I ask,
Well,
like,
there, yeah,
I'm just trying to
there's a
understand,
right.
because that I'm not as familiar with like Mennonite religion. Like
Uh-huh,
I'm anyway.
uh-huh.
So can you share like why you felt like you couldn't ask your dad to step in?
Um, well, I knew that he was nonviolent,
Hmm.
and um, and I knew that he would do everything in his power to, to try to stop Ron from
Right.
pursuing me.
Hmm.
And and he did, he took the call when Ron called and he talked to Ron and I said finally, he said, Leona, what do you want me to say?
Mm.
And I said, just say, okay, I will, I'll go out with him again.
Mhm.
Well, you didn't want to
You know,
see your family get
because
hurt.
I did right. I
Yeah.
did not want to, and I didn't want to put Dad in that situation either.
Hmm.
But the other part of it is if Dad were the kind of person that would have gotten the gun and,
Mm.
gone after Ron, I would never have told him what happened
Yeah.
because our family could not have been okay
Mhm.
without Dad.
Mhm.
With
Great
Mom having
weight.
MS,
Huge pressure. Yeah.
he was, I mean, 7 kids,
Yeah.
Mom with MS,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
we couldn't have survived. And for Dad to have gotten himself in trouble over this would have been completely untenable for
Yeah.
I would never have forgiven myself for
Well, and
that.
I mean, I can't imagine the weight
That's
of
what I was going to
all of
say. He
that,
took all of
Yeah.
that
all that
himself.
weight. And I mean, we just met and I'm feeling that weight for
Oh
you.
my God.
I can't even, I can't, like, that's a lot. And how old, I mean, can I ask how old you were at that particular time?
I've tried to piece it together and I
Mm,
was either 15 or 16 and I'm not positive which.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Trauma will do that.
Yeah.
You just have bits and pieces sometimes. Yep. But
Mhm.
still, I mean, that is so much weight to carry
Oh
at
my God.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really,
it was.
at any age, but when
But
you are 15 and 16, I mean, you are still a child. And to carry
mhm,
that, the weight of what's happening to you and the weight of feeling the responsibility of, I've got to protect my family. And
yes.
not only from this person that has threatened to kill everybody in my family, but my dad can't go to jail because
Hmm.
that would dismantle our family because of my mother's health. I mean,
Hmm.
that's so much, Leona. That is so
So
much.
you became, more like a hostage
Yeah. In so
that
many
Yes,
ways.
yes,
is trying to
yes.
say, I just can't make a mistake. I can't say the wrong thing. And several stories you tell in there about how you thought on your feet and you in a sense manipulated Hound,
Mm,
which was
Mm.
it's like, physics, high level physics type of thinking for you to navigate that and survive and somehow get out of it.
mm,
But oh my God, what a just like
It was
like Laura
scary.
said, we feel the weight of that right now, and I did when I
Hmm.
read the book also. Um, so
Hmm.
what's the next chapter in the story? What do you happen?
So I'll kind of jump ahead.
It's fine.
I kept praying and I kept wondering, is God going to do something?
mm,
And and I thought, the thing you can ask God for is this simple thing, like, just help somebody be better than they would otherwise be, and help Ron find somebody else, or just turn away from me. I
Hmm.
can't tell him no, but you could change his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
So
you
many
could
ways
help him
saying that prayer.
go in another
You know.
direction. Please, God, please, 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 please. And just pleaded over and over and over and prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept feeling just like I felt when he was raping me, that God would not intervene.
Mm.
And I had the feeling that even though this was the simplest thing God would ever have to do,
Right.
it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I just kept having that feeling.
Yeah.
And indeed, by the time I was a senior in high school, towards the end of the year, thank goodness, I found out that I was pregnant.
Mm.
So now, here is this Mennonite community. Nobody knows anything about what's happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been totally silent, totally handling it on my own. And I have to go before my congregation and confess my sin.
Mm.
And that was one more
Yeah.
than I
Yeah.
could handle.
It's
Mm.
devastating. Yeah.
So I said to God, if you existed,
Mm.
you would have done something.
Mm-hmm.
If you existed, if any of the things that I had learned throughout my entire life were true, you would have done something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I am crossing you off. I was an idiot to believe in you,
Mm.
and I will never make that mistake again,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it was one evening I was driving the tractor, harrowing the field, and I was shaking my fist at God
Mm-hmm.
and cursing God.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had to go up in front of the church and confess my sin. I still had to marry the man that I hated.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I still had to go and live with him now
Mm-hmm.
and be pregnant and have a child and bring a child into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had said to God. You cannot, maybe I was sinful in ways that you can hold me accountable, that you could put me in this horrible situation, but you cannot tell me that you have a right to put an innocent child into this
Right.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was furious
Yeah.
with God. And
Mm-hmm.
I remained furious with God. I mean, rage burned in me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
about this.
Yeah.
But I still had to be passive and nice and calming no matter what happened in my marriage, you know, do whatever was necessary to keep him from exploding and doing
Mm-hmm.
something horrible.
Right.
And sometimes I failed and sometimes I did okay. To make a long story short, I found a way to get him to move to Massachusetts and start over again in a new world. He had been fired from his job and didn't think he could get another one here. And so we started over and you know, I was naive enough to hope that a new situation might make him better. It of
Mm-hmm.
course
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
Right.
And finally, I called this number that I heard on the radio that was for families that were having trouble. And I talked to a social worker, and the social worker helped me get away, helped me get on public welfare,
Mm-hmm.
helped me, literally came in her car. Bless her heart, she was just a savior and, you know, got me and took me. And I, Stevie and I should say, I'm sorry. In the book, I say Randy. Randy and I went to live with this woman. I could rent one room in her house. And so we had a room, and I was absolutely ecstatic. I was so thrilled because I knew that Ron would think that I had probably gone back to Kansas. And so I warned Dad, and he said he thought he could handle it, that he would be able to talk Ron down. And, Dad was very good at that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hoped and hoped and hoped if Ron just didn't act out that, this would be it. So then I turned my energy to wanting to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
I had always wanted to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
but in high school, I didn't do very well. I
Mm-hmm.
was totally consumed by this
Right.
calamity.
hmm
Yes.
And so I didn't know if I had enough smarts
Mm-hmm.
to go to college. I didn't know any of that, but I was bound and determined to find a way. And I actually did find a way, basically because um, my eyes are not good. My mother had gone mostly blind,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that was the MS,
Mm-hmm.
but some of it they thought was retinitis pigmentosus. And the state had me go through their tests, and they thought
Right.
I had retinitis pigmentosus and that I would be going blind at some point,
Mm-hmm.
which to me was fine. That was in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And now they were going to help me pay for
Right.
college.
mm Yeah.
So I got on the subway in Boston and and um, and this woman sitting next to me, I had several brochures from different colleges, and she said, "Oh, but you've got to go to Boston College. That's the best school." I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay, I'll go."
Oh gosh, that's funny.
So
You
that's
believed
how
you
I got
could,
to
right?
go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I started school, and it was really it was it was what I had to do. I was so motivated, and but it was not the right thing for my son, who was only 2.5 at that point
Mm-hmm.
and was just too young for the calamities that
Yeah.
were going to hit us, because not only did I start to school and that took all day, and he had to enter a, daycare and, all kinds of changes. And I had no cushion anywhere to
hmm
help us deal with all these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember from the book you talking about that in detail about how little you had.
Yeah.
He's really thankful for all the the support you got,
Mm-hmm.
but it was
Was,
just
yeah,
barely enough or not quite enough all the time for a
Mm-hmm.
long
all the
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had to try to save every penny.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
And I had to get up early, early and ride the subway for an hour and a half to get there, and then another hour and a half home in the evenings. And it was, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But
hmm
it was what I had to do, and I was willing to do anything that I had to do in
Mm-hmm.
order to go to college.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. The classes were great. And after the first semester or two, I began to think maybe I was smart enough to actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was hard. It was very hard.
hmm
And to make a long story shorter, eventually Ron found out where that I was in Boston, and he came to Boston to get me, and he found where I was, kidnapped me, and that was another big ordeal. I right now I can't even remember what I did to escape, but I finally escaped. And oh yeah, I remember. I convinced him I would come right back with
Yeah.
my
They
son.
were. I remember in the book
And
being an ordeal. It took a long time, and it was very carefully spoken words, and
Mm,
mhm,
eventually, yeah,
mhm,
it's worth reading in the book. It's
mm-hmm.
fantastic
yeah.
in a bad way. But
Yeah.
But
so,
anyway, there were several instances of him trying to get me, and he would come back and, find me wherever I was and just create havoc. And it was hell,
Mm-hmm.
so much hell for me. And trying to get help was like, it just complicated all kinds of things. And here I was trying to go to school and having a baby. I was the only one in in my entire class of 8,000 people who wasn't just straight out of high school
Mm-hmm.
and who had a baby and was divorced. There was one other person who had a baby. I was told. I never met her.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So anyway, it was just not, the whole thing was completely not okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and throughout this, I stayed very true to my lack of belief and my rage with God.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
And I was not going to ever take a course by the priest. Of course, Boston College is a Jesuit school,
Mm.
but the kids told me that the Jesuits were the best philosophy professors and they had the best psychology courses, and those were the things I was
Right.
interested in.
Right.
So I finally took a class by a priest, and I loved it.
Mm.
mm,
And I found out that the priest, gosh, makes me
yeah, it's okay.
Yep.
emotional.
Okay.
The priests came at things in a similar way that I
Mm.
did,
Mm.
Mm,
and they didn't force any kind of religion.
mm,
They
Sure.
mhm,
certainly confessed it, but they didn't force
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so I tried to be as open as I could be, but I wasn't going to budge,
Yeah.
and change my mind
Mm-hmm.
Right.
after everything I had experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, sometime later, for a psychology class, I had to do an internship, and I wound up falling in love with one of the people who was working at the mental health center place where I was
Mhm,
doing the internship.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that he was a seminarian of all
mm,
things. It was kind of like I was running as fast and as far as I could from anything to do with faith, and I kept getting
Kept getting.
hit,
mhm, yeah.
like a 2x4 on the
Mm.
back of my head. So, so we of course had great theological discussions, and some of them are in the book. Um, and I would argue and argue and argue, and he would argue and argue and argue, and still we found just a real deep connection with each other. And we wound up getting married. And when I finished my work at Boston College, when I finished my courses, he talked to me about becoming going to seminary.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept saying, Leona, he said, you're never gonna not be a Mennonite. You're about 70 70 to 90% there, even though you won't
Mm-hmm.
have anything to do with God. You still function and
Mm-hmm.
think through life still from that paradigm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you could just find out that God is not your Mennonite version of God, maybe you could get past the anger.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And that appealed to me, that idea
yeah.
that maybe God could redeem himself to me somehow. I didn't believe it, but
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and that it would be worth a journey into his type of theology to find out if that could be true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I did apply to Andover Newton Theological School
Mm-hmm.
when I graduated, and they accepted me. And it was in the summer, and I was working at Andover Newton, and we were living there and in married student housing, and got a call that there had been a horrible explosion on the farm,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad was burned, and we had to come home right away, and we did. And dad was horribly burned for the second time in his life. And he lived for 30 days
Mm.
in just utter anguish.
Oh.
But, you know, being his soulful self.
Mm.
And fortunately, I had a chance to say goodbye. But it was horrible because here were my siblings, younger
Mm.
than me, and parentless. My mom was basically a vegetable. She could not really move her head. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't do anything.
Right.
And so she went into a nursing home,
Mm.
and we knew she wouldn't live.
Mm.
She lived another 6 months, and then she also died.
Mm.
But theologically, I was completely torn up
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
because after all that suffering that mom and dad had done, I could not tolerate that there would be no God
Mm.
and no heaven
Mm.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I started bargaining.
Mm.
I just desperately wanted there to be a heaven
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
because life had been so unfair to them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, I knew I still had a long way to go,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't. Theirs was over, and it wasn't fair. It
Yeah.
wasn't okay in any way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I said I would try my
Mm-hmm.
damnedest to believe again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And it took me forever. It took me so many years of trying and trying and trying. And I became a minister and I preached. And I tried not to preach things that I didn't believe. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to be selective, and
Hmm.
it was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I was a good pastor, and the people loved me, and I loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you took care of them
Mm-hmm.
as best you could, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, the church didn't want women. It was in the time when women were brand new
Sure.
to the ministry, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
even the liberal church, which is what I was in, didn't. Um, they were verbally okay with it, but in terms of the actual churches hiring a woman, it was like you were way beneath a male minister, and they wouldn't pay hardly at all. So I knew I was not going to be able to ever ask my family to move
Mm-hmm.
anywhere for me to get a ministry job. And so I was just going to have to find a different way of using my pastoral degree. And I began to look at pastoral counseling, and I did a lot more training
Mm-hmm.
and became a pastoral counselor, and also got the state licensure in Oklahoma, and began teaching on a graduate level, um, how to incorporate theology and psychology,
Mm,
and taught pastors how to become pastoral counselors.
Mm.
And that was a great joy for me. I really enjoyed doing that teaching.
yeah.
And I had to really keep working on my theology, and when I started my doctoral work, I was much more honest and found that my seminary professors could deal with my honesty, and that was really rewarding to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
through,
I
I want to
eventually,
interrupt. So through
yeah,
this leg of the journey, let's just say, I want to assume, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong, that you were doing a lot of fitting in. Laura and I talk
yeah,
about that a lot in our story and in the stories of others, that we do a lot of fitting in, not mentioning certain things, not being too strong
hmm,
about certain things and backing up and just so.
yes,
Did that feel yucky? Uh, or were you able to
yes.
navigate it pretty well, or what was it like?
It felt yucky on each end of it.
Mm,
It felt like I was, half distorting what I
Mm-hmm.
believed,
Mm-hmm.
just to be in a Christian, well, it wasn't called Christian counseling. We did psychotherapy, but to be known as a minister doing psychotherapy, my identity was wrong for me,
Mm-hmm.
except that it was also right for me in the same way that I could relate to the Jesuit priests
Mm-hmm.
in a way that the other students couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It was right, but
Mm-hmm.
it was also wrong.
yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
so deep what you
Yeah.
just said,
Yeah.
and it may, in a way, explain part of our journey.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
it's
want
so
to,
hard.
I want to
Mm-hmm.
But
make
the
sure,
other part
yeah,
is that the more I tried to believe, the more I felt like I was putting my knee on the neck of my teenage self.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
I was trying to kill off the
Uh-huh.
Leona
mm,
that knew too much,
mm,
Mm.
mm,
and I couldn't do it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
yeah,
And the more I saw, you learn things. You learn things in seminary. I did anyway, you know, and they don't fit.
Mm.
I was so desperate for a heaven that I would go to my seminary professors and say, please tell me when when do people go to heaven?
Yeah.
You know, are my parents
Mm-hmm.
just in the ground? What's happened?
Mm-hmm.
And
hmm,
of course, they couldn't tell me. The Bible has all these contradictions about
Sure.
sure,
Yeah.
what that is. They couldn't tell me,
hmm,
and I just you from there's more and more contradictions, and you learn all these contradictions. And I love when you were talking about being a father, because there's so many places in the Bible where God is not an okay father. He
right,
is cruel and
Yes.
abusive, and he's profoundly cruel to
Yes.
women.
yeah,
Yes.
Profoundly.
indeed,
Mm-hmm.
There is
yeah,
absolutely no way to justify
Mm-hmm.
who
yeah,
he is to women.
That's
yeah.
right.
It's irredeemable.
Mm.
It's irredeemable.
Yeah,
It absolutely is.
that's right.
And I have for so many years heralded Job's wife, who never even got a name in the Bible
Yeah.
and who has
Proverbs
been
31 woman too.
scorned
Yeah.
for thousands of years. And she was the smartest person in the entire story. And she was right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She
Exactly.
was right.
Yeah.
And if God is going to be cruel and abusive, curse God and die.
Right. Right.
Yep.
There you go. So
Uh,
go ahead.
Just in your story, I wrote down a couple things, and I just feel like I have to say them to you and take them for what they're worth. But you had mentioned that you said, I failed Ron. And I just want to tell you that you didn't fail him because you were never, ever responsible, nor were you supposed to be responsible for his abusive behavior. So I wanted to say that to you. You didn't fail him.
Mm-hmm.
He failed him.
Mm-hmm.
And you tried everything in your power to stay alive. That's what you were
Had to
doing.
do.
That's what you had to do.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought was so profound what you said, Randy was a savior.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote, that's what God was supposed to be for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that so interesting.
Yeah. At
Just
least.
so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I hear your story and I like am feeling it so deeply because and I'm not sharing my story here today, but I've had those same and I have not been through what you've been through. And we are not here to compare stories, but what you said, I hear so much of your anger, righteous anger towards God, um,
Mm-hmm.
because there are things that I've prayed desperately for and have
Mm-hmm.
felt and were not answered. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but God was 100% silent.
Mhm.
100%
Right.
silent.
Not even acknowledged. Or
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I feel your anger and I join you in that anger because I have
Oh,
felt that
thank you.
anger. I have felt that anger. And
Uh-huh.
as you're telling your story, I feel that for you, but I also like it resonates deeply with me. So I just wanted to share those
Mm-hmm.
things with you. Your story is incredibly
Thank
powerful.
you. Thank you so much.
I know there's more to your
Means a
story.
lot to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
I know there's more to your story, but I'd like us to, if we can, finish up with a couple of things.
Okay.
Um, how how did the story get even better? Did it
mhm,
get even better?
mhm.
How did you heal? Those kind of things. And what advice do you have for other women? Um, Up until just recently, we learned a lot more about trauma-informed stuff and things like that.
Mm,
We're starting to understand all the situations better, but we've been so ignorant about it for thousands of
Mm.
years, forever, basically. Help us, um,
And in my
help us
opinion,
with your story of healing, and that means different things, different
mhm.
people, and help us go ahead and
I was just gonna,
clarify.
no. I
Yeah,
was just gonna say, and the church that is supposed to be a place of healing,
yes.
probably one of the least trauma informed, trauma responsive institutions that I know of.
Yeah.
but how did you get better, and what would be your advice to people? Even if you
Well,
want to address men, you can. We'll air it and
We'll
let
air it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
right. Well, I have to say, I've been very fortunate in this life that people have responded well to me. They have loved me. Um, I don't know what makes that happen, but certainly not everybody. I don't mean that. I've
Mhm.
had my battles and they've
Sure.
been difficult,
Mhm.
but overall, I've been so fortunate to have, um, close connections that have been meaningful and positive. And I think that has been very healing. I've done many years of therapy,
Mhm.
and some of that is if you're going to be a therapist, you better know what it's like
What it feels
to
like.
Mhm.
sit
Yeah.
in the other chair,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
and and you, those have been really good experiences for me to
Hmm.
have been in some depth work in therapy. And and I would say that I am so fortunate to have the family that I have because my siblings are just amazing. And my son is amazing.
Mhm.
And, people in our family are, I just think outstandingly good
Mhm.
and good in the ways that we were raised to be as Mennonites, not following the same behavioral patterns,
Mhm.
but having goodness in our hearts and doing whatever it takes for us to help the world
Mhm.
to be a better place.
Hmm.
I see that in all of my siblings,
Mhm.
and they have been incredibly supportive of me throughout my journey. And I didn't even talk about my sister Dorothy because, that is such a crucial part of my story
Hmm.
because Ron also kidnapped her. You know, he 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 did what he said he was going to do, which is hurt my family, and
Hmm.
he did.
Mhm.
And Dorothy was incredibly brave. And she and I have always been close. And that's why Ron went after Dorothy because he knew that that was a way to get me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I tell that story in my book. Um, so I think the fact that I came from a really loving family
Mhm.
and I had a loving family around me, even though I didn't have my parents,
Mhm.
and and I had therapy and I had an education and I was fortunate in so many ways.
Yeah.
Really
A-
amazing.
And you also worked really hard at it.
Yeah.
I
You
did.
you struggled and scraped
I
and
did.
fought and all that.
Yes.
And
I
Dorothy and her husband, your sister and her husband, teach a training where they
hmm
ask people to check in and they say, "How do you feel? Mad, sad, glad, and afraid?" And
hmm
I I want to echo through you that all of those emotions are important and they're valid.
Yep.
Yes.
It's okay for you at your age to be mad.
hmm
It's
Mhm.
still
Yes.
okay that you
Yeah.
rage against what happened to you because that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
You're mad about some of it, and that's okay. And
hmm
you're probably sad
Mm.
about
Yeah.
it. And then you're glad that you've overcame
Yes.
against the
So much.
odds
Yeah.
and so much. But um, you don't have to give, in my opinion, all credit to someone else or other people, but accept the credit that you deserve
Mhm.
for doing the hard work. And it's
Mhm.
hard. It's
It is
hard
hard
as
It's
work.
hard work.
it's
Yeah.
hard as hell to get better.
It is.
And
It is.
when you're like
It's
me and you start at 50, then you're behind the curve
yeah.
and you got to work hard. Um, man, what are we going to say? What are you going to
Well,
say?
I want to
Go ahead.
first, I mean, like, well, I want to know where can people, like I just went on Audible and I ordered your book because I'm like, I did not
Thank you.
have the privilege of reading your book like Carl did before our this interview. So I am very much looking forward. But so is Amazon a good place? Where's a good place to find your book?
Amazon, you can order it on Amazon. You can get it as an ebook,
Okay.
um, and you can get it on Audible.
Okay.
So
Yep.
all of the above is an easy way. You can go to a bookstore, but what you will have to do is have them
Order it.
order it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and they can get it.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
so that's all available,
Hmm.
and I tell people that if they want to write to me,
Yes.
like when they're reading it, it's difficult, some parts of it.
Mhm.
And if they want to write to me you know, they can have my Gmail
Okay.
and
Yeah. That was
write
my
to me.
next question was
Yeah.
how can people get a hold of you? Um, there could be people listening that find themselves in some very difficult situations,
Mhm,
such as what you
mhm.
described, and having that safe person to reach out to means a lot to people. So, do you have a website or can people find you on Facebook or anything like that?
I wouldn't recommend a website or Facebook.
Okay.
I would say Gmail is the best way to get
Option.
me.
Okay.
And if you don't get a response,
Hmm.
Gmail me again
Okay.
and then Gmail me again because I have to go through them often very fast. If
Yes.
I don't recognize a
Hmm.
name, I try to pay attention to the first line. And if you put fog of faith in the first line,
Okay.
you know, then I'll know that you're talking about the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the best way to get me.
Okay.
Gmail and then Fog of Faith. And Gmail is just Leona Stucky, and that's LeonaStucky
Yeah.
at gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. But if you look it up, you'll see how it's spelled and all of that
Hmm.
on Audible or
Yep.
on whatever. It's the Fog of Faith.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you can
Leona,
get it. You can get it.
Leona, anything else you didn't get to say that you need to say? We always give people that chance just in
Yeah.
case I kind of ran over one of your points or something or ask a question at the wrong time. Anything else you need to close out with or say?
I guess, yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much to both of you. You hung in there through this whole thing with
Hmm.
me. I totally
Been worth it.
appreciate that.
Absolutely
Been
worth
worth it.
it.
And I also want to say something like you asked me, what would I say to women?
Mm.
Mm,
And what I want to say to women is we have been fooled.
Mm.
mm,
We have been told to be nice,
Yeah.
to be good Christians. And to be a good Christian, we have so often accepted that we are second,
Mm.
mm,
that the man is the head and the woman is the helper. And it's not okay.
Yeah.
right.
I tell people in couples counseling, I tell people um, if you're living somebody else's life, um, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Mm,
If the marriage is tilted so that it's one person's life and the other person is just a helper,
mm,
no,
right.
it's no good.
Right.
Mm.
You have one life and only one. And so you are responsible to be honest with yourself about living your best life.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And that may mean sacrifice, and that may mean loving in a way that takes everything of you. It often does,
Hmm.
loving. is powerful and good.
And hard.
But
Yeah.
know that you are making that choice and you're doing it because it helps you be your best self.
Mm.
So create relationships where you are being drawn out
Mm.
as your best self. And whether that's a marriage relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever, whether it's belonging to a congregation, whatever it is that you do, wherever you get connectedness, make sure that you are building your best self and living your own life.
Mm.
And that will give you satisfaction and a kind of contentment that nothing else will.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short, women, especially you women who have been sold short by Christianity.
Right.
Right.
Don't sell yourself short to fit in.
Yeah. Amen.
Demand that you be the fullness of who you are.
Mm.
Mm.
Demand that.
Yeah.
And take no authority from anyone, anywhere that would compromise that.
Mm. It's good. That's
So
good.
good.
Yeah. The book is called Fog of Faith, The Fog of Faith, Surviving My Impotent God by Dr. Leona Stucky, Stucky.
Mm.
And we're so honored to have you on our podcast.
Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you.
story.
Yeah.
We
Thank you
won't,
so much
yeah,
for inviting me. I
Absolutely.
totally appreciate it.
Of
Thanks so
course.
much.
we won't be able to see, they won't see your face. They won't see how hard this was for you. Um, but we saw it and we appreciate it. And we thank you for sharing that sacred story with us. And we'll take care of it and share it with others. For the listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for communicating with us, following us, whatever you do out there in podcast land. But as always, be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary podcast.
Remember, all who wander in the desert are not lost.
We believe all of our stories are sacred.
We are always here if you need someone to hear your story.
Check out our blog on Pathos and also our YouTube channel.
And stay tuned for our Leaning Forward conference.
Remember, we love you.
And be at peace.